Hello, Matt from LeanStacks here, and welcome back to another episode in the LeanStacks Technology Education series. This episode is part one of a two-part mini-series showing you how to install and run a Spring Boot application on a server. This episode builds on previous episodes in both the Spring Boot Fundamentals and Development Operations series. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch them yet, I encourage you to take a look on the LeanStacks YouTube channel. The source code illustrated in this episode may be found in the LeanStacks GitHub repositories. See the episode description for more information and URLs. Let's get started. I've opened the Greeting Web Services project in the Spring Tool Suite. In the main project directory, open the Maven POM XML file and scroll to the bottom. Locate the Spring Boot Maven plugin within the build section of this XML document. Within the plugin element, add a new child element named configuration if it does not already exist. Within the configuration element, add another child element named executable and make the value of the executable element the word true. By enabling the executable configuration value, we are instructing the Spring Boot Maven plugin to add scripting to the jar file, which makes it fully executable from the command line or as an operating system service. Let's build the application to show that this change to the POM file does not alter the application build process. Open a terminal prompt and navigate to the project-based directory. Type mvn clean package and press enter. As you can see, Maven builds the project, running all unit tests and producing all project reports. The build behavior has not been changed. However, the jar file produced by the build within the target subdirectory is now fully executable, as you will see in just a moment. Next, let's update the Gradle build script to produce a fully executable jar file. In the main project directory, locate and open the build.gradle file. Scroll to the Gradle closure named Spring Boot. Within the curly braces of the Spring Boot closure, add the line executable equals true. Gradle build scripts are authored using the Groovy language syntax. The line executable equals true is the Gradle equivalent of the XML markup we added to the Maven POM file. Now let's build the application with Gradle to see the build process in action. Return to the terminal prompt and navigate back to the project-based directory. Type /\gradlew to use the Gradle wrapper. /\gradlew clean build and press enter. Once again, the build process executes all of the unit tests and produces all of the build reports, just as it did prior to making these changes. The Gradle build script takes a bit longer than the Maven build script to execute because in previous episodes of this series we've integrated additional code and style analysis reporting to the Gradle build script. Let's run the application to demonstrate that instrumenting the jar file to be fully executable has no impact upon running it locally. Let's return to the terminal window and ensure that we're in the base project directory. This time type //gradlew boot run and press enter to start the embedded Apache Tomcat web server on port 8080. Using the Postman RESTful Web Service client, I'll test the Greeting Web Services actuator endpoints to demonstrate that the application is running just as it has prior to making these changes. I'll demonstrate using the actuator info endpoint. In a previous episode in this series, we added build information to the info endpoint. As you can see, the application running on my local machine has returned the JSON response from the actuator info endpoint. We can also still run the application locally using the java-jar command. If you prefer to run your Spring Boot applications locally in this way, type java-jar build/libs/Spring Boot fundamentals, the fully qualified name of the jar file, and press enter to start the application. Once again, I'll use the Postman RESTful Web Service client to demonstrate that the application is running normally. Remember, we've made the jar file fully executable. Using the Java executable is no longer required. Let's execute the jar file directly. Navigate to the directory containing your jar file and simply type / and the jar file name and press enter. As you can see, the jar file is now directly executable from the command line. Once again, I'll demonstrate the application is functioning properly by using a few of the actuator endpoints. Remember, this is part one of a two-part mini-series. In the second episode, I'll demonstrate how to deploy the application to an Amazon Web Services Linux EC2 instance, configure it as a Linux service, and supply external configuration to the application. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Click the thumbs up button below to let us know that you liked it. Not a subscriber yet? Click the subscribe button below to get the latest episodes from LeanStacks. As always, you can find more information on LeanStacks.com. To view the complete repository illustrated in this episode, see the GitHub repository URL in this episode's description.